So, till I see y'all again, I'll be catching y'all down the road. Bye, y'all.
G'day, I'm Pete, the Aussie Bush Cop. In 2012, I retired from the New South Wales Police for mental health reasons, and I took the radical decision to move to King Island, where I become a homesteader.
So yeah, my name is Mike Jones. I'm a retired police officer and a retired Marine here in Texas, and I'm fortunate to have Peter reach out to me and kind of collaborate and talk about our experiences as police officers and maybe our life. I'm really not sure where Peter's going to go with all this, so I'll try to be a good customer or whatever, patient, whatever you're going to say.
Well, thanks, Mike. My name's Peter Gillette, and I'm a retired New South Wales police officer. And for the American viewers, that's one of the states of Australia. You might know New South Wales because it's the capital is Sydney. The Sydney and the Opera House and the Sydney Olympics way back in 2000. And I was a general duties policeman. I think Americans might call that a patrolman. I attained the lofty rank of senior constable, which means I had 2 stripes and a bar because I did more than 10 years. And I did all my time in the remote rural areas of New South Wales. And I've just been looking forward to talking to you, Mike.
Yeah, same here. I was so excited when you reached out to me, Peter, and I know it's hard. I'm looking at you on the screen when I probably should be looking at the camera, but it's probably unusual to you as well as it is for me to do this. It's the first time for me.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like I'm looking at to look at you, I'm looking like this, but I got to look at the camera. So it looks like
Yep.
So one of the things that I wanted to share with you, Mike, was there's something you said in one of your YouTube videos that you when you looked at some of my podcasts, was that you said that one of the stories I was sharing, you said that could be, apart from the accent, that could be in Houston.
Yeah.
Thought about the similarity of the police work that we did. It's so similar across the globe in the Western world.
Yeah. Were you allowed? Did you carry a weapon on duty?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that's one of the.
Okay.
I guess that's because we have the English system of policing here called the constabulary, but as opposed to the English police, we always carry weapons. Every jurisdiction in Australia, we have weapons, and we always have. Probably a couple of 100 years, and all the police were carrying weapons. The weapon that we carried was a 40 caliber Glock, which was,
that's what I carried.
Yeah, the particular one we had, I think, was modelled after what your FBI carried. It was a 15 round 40 caliber Glock.
Yeah, that's what I carried. I've got my my duty belt hanging on my.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, I had my weapon in it for the longest, for several months, and I thought, that people get their feathers ruffled, seeing it on video. So my video channel is a reaction channel. It's not really a police channel, and so I never know, the background of people who are going to watch it, and I don't want to offend anybody. You know how it is, but I should have put it on there for this for this interaction with you. And but yeah, I had 15 shot Glock 40. That's what I carried for many years. I used to carry a 1911 45 cal, but it only had if I remember right, 8 rounds. I think is what you could carry with it, and that might not be enough sometimes. So, and you carried it. I don't know if you know anything about the 1911, the Colt 45. You always carried it with the hammer back, where the Glock doesn't have a hammer. So I don't know if it's safer or not. I mean, I'm not really into that kind of stuff, but that's what most of the people, the reason why I think that the rest of us started going to the Glock 40 is that if you were, for instance, a bank robbery, all the jurisdictions are going to get involved in that, and probably the same way with where you were at. And they're all going to have, different jurisdictions, so they could carry a 9 millimeter for one jurisdiction, and not another one could carry a 40 cal or even a 38, whatever. But if it goes down and you need an extra ammunition, you can always use,
Oh,
you can share ammunition when you have,
mm,
everybody has a 40 cal.
mm,
So that was kind of the thinking,
mm,
with us,
mm. One of the you talk about jurisdictions is that one of the big, whilst there's lots of similarities between your country and ours, got the same culture, language, we use the dollar, but some of the real big differences is, well, geographically we're about the same size, but population massively different. Like you've got
yeah,
hundreds of millions, and the entire Australia continent only has 20 something million. And we
yeah.
only have 8 jurisdictions in the whole country. And do you know a bloke named Ron DeLord? He's a former Texan policeman.
It doesn't sound familiar.
Oh, no,
Ron DeLord.
Ron DeLord, RONDE-LORD. And Ron and I have written books and we swapped books. And Ron DeLord, his last book, he does negotiations at a union level. Anyway,
Hmm.
Ron's last book, he told me that in the United States there's 880 jurisdictions. I mean, that's massively different to Australia. We only have eight, the whole country.
Yeah.
Because we only have, there's a technical difference between a state and a territory, but Australia has 6 states and 2 territories. But there's only a technical or legal difference between the two. So those 8 jurisdictions include the federal one as well. So that makes it a bit easier. When I was a policeman in New South Wales, we were a policeman from way over in Sydney right through to the back blocks, way over in the more you're sort of out in the outback country, outback areas of New South Wales.
All the same jurisdiction.
Yeah, same jurisdiction. Mm.
So you could go and enforce the law in Sydney as well as the what
Broken Hill.
200.
Like,
How far is that?
to get to Broken Hill from Sydney, to drive, I don't know, probably best part of 10 hours, I would imagine. It was
It's a pretty good sized jurisdiction.
Yeah, it was massive. I mean, the New South Wales is not even one of the biggest states in Australia. I mean, Western Australia is just huge. And
Yeah.
you mentioned before about weapons. Only the tactical police in Australia are trained and have access to long arms, rifles.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Police,
Yeah, we all carried them.
yeah, yeah. I remember hearing that in one of your videos. Yeah, we
Yeah.
didn't have any of that. We just had a pistol. That was it.
I mean, I'll tell you, Peter, probably the first 10 years of my police. So I did 21 years as a Marine first. And then before I retired in the Marine Corps, I went to the police academy. So I had an overlap. I had a 2-year overlap. And, just a sidebar is I worked 2 years full time as a Marine and 2 years as a full time police officer, just different hours. They just kind of, it was terrible for, working 2 jobs. Here in Texas, and that's the only thing I can speak of. I can't speak of any other state, but it's hard to get your foot in the door of a police department. I was fortunate. I was offered a job. Had I turned that job down, in my mind, I don't know if that offer would have been available once I finally retired from the Marine Corps. So when they offered it to me, I took it,
Mm.
and with the thought was that, if once I get my foot in the door and I prove myself, then I could move around to different police departments if that's what I want to do. And eventually that's what I did. But we're talking about jurisdictions. The first 10 years, we didn't carry long guns, I mean, unless you provided it yourself. And of course, they're like at the time, probably $1,000, let's say. And police didn't pay that much at the time for, you still have raising your family and all that. It's only been, in the last few years that the pay has really come up and police officers are doing pretty good. But, so I get it, man. We carried shotguns, but not, assault weapons. But now we carry both. When I retired, I had both in the car with me, plus my sidearm, and we probably had, upwards of probably 300 rounds in the. Yeah, I drove an Explorer, so we carried 300 extra rounds in the back,
Mm.
and all the keys, all the vehicles are all keyed the same. So anybody,
Ah,
any of your partners can get into your vehicle if they needed ammunition and tourniquets or, you know, something like that. But by the grace of God, man, I never got anything that was so catastrophic that we had to do all that. We were just prepared to do all that.
mm. Yeah. So the cars being keyed the same, was that in the same jurisdiction, or does that outside jurisdictions also had the same key?
I think, man, I'm just speculating here because I don't know for sure, but I think all the police vehicles, we had Crown Vics, and then we went to Tahoes, and some of us went to Explorers after that.
Mm.
Um, I think the Ford Explorers, I think I could probably go to another jurisdiction and my key would probably fit their Explorer. It wouldn't fit their Tahoe, and it wouldn't fit, if they had a Dodge Charger or something like that. But I think it would cross over there, but I'm not sure,
Mm.
you
Mm.
know.
Yeah,
But in our jurisdiction, we had, we have city police,
mm,
and they can't enforce the law outside of city limits.
mm,
Then we have county, which can enforce the law within the county. So even in the cities that are in that county, you
mm,
can go inside their jurisdiction. And I spent most of my time in the county jurisdiction. And
mm.
then I was elected. You're gonna find this funny. I was elected constable. So I was for 16 years. I was an elected constable.
And what does that mean? And what does that mean in Texas?
So it you kin it to all doctors are physicians, right?
Mm,
But you don't go to a podiatrist to have a heart surgery, right?
mm,
So you don't go to your family doctor to have heart surgery. You go to a cardiologist. And
mm,
so with a constable, we have to have additional training, and then that allows us to now we can take people's, we can garnish their checks with the bank. Normal police officers can't do that. We can
mm.
take
Okay.
children away from families. Normal police officers don't have that jurisdiction.
Mm, mm,
We can, unfortunately take homes away from people, all through the judicial system.
mm.
But
That's
normal police officers don't have that jurisdiction. Only constables and sheriffs.
when we got sworn in, every police officer, and I'll just say that the New South Wales Police is quite a big police force. It's got about, I think, at least 15,000 members.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's one of the bigger police forces in the English-speaking world. Simply, I mean, one of the reasons is that you've only got, a relatively small number of jurisdictions. But when you get sworn in at the academy, constable is both a rank in New South Wales, both a rank and the office. And so when you get sworn in, you swear an oath to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II to uphold her peace and to uphold her laws and the like. Of course, now
Hmm.
we'll get a king because now the king's on the throne. But the office or the power comes from being a constable. You can be the commissioner of police, but you are still a constable. And one of the unique and I think really great things about the constabulary is that it goes back to a decision known as Miller versus Knox, Miller versus Knox, Knox, at 1838. And in that decision, the judge decreed and found that a constable has original authority, which means that if I get sworn in and I'm a brand new probationary constable, the commissioner of police cannot come to me and say, Peter, go and arrest that bloke over there, because I have the original authority. It stops and starts with me. It's an interesting concept about this.
It is. It is. But it's similar.
Yeah, great.
It is similar because a police chief or even a sheriff cannot come and tell me as a constable to do something,
Mm,
and vice versa. We're not going to go tell the police chief obviously how to run his office. You know what I'm saying? We're not going to get in that his pie, his little empire. But I think probably law wise we probably could, but
mm,
I wouldn't.
yeah.
I don't know of anybody that whoever would.
The big threat that we probably had over us is that one night we had an incident. We had to attend the address, the private address of one of our big bosses. He had the rank of assistant commissioner, and I didn't know who he was. And my partner didn't know who he was. And I was getting ready to tell him off because he was being a bit obnoxious. And
A little arrogant, huh?
next Monday, and Peter, you're not stationed here anymore, mate. You're out at Perth, rather.
Is that way out in nowhere?
Oh yeah, well, that's out in the back blocks. I'm glad because there's another bloke next to him, and I might add, all these people were wearing their pajamas because it was late at night, and it was a very busy night, and we didn't get there on time, or what he thought was on time. Anyway, fortunately, the other bloke, he realised, he's thinking, these coppers don't know who they're talking to. And he sort of stepped forward, put out his hand to shake her hand and said, I'm not going to say his name. He said, my name's Assistant Commissioner John Smith. And we're going, oh, okay, so you must be, right. Transfer. So,
Yeah, how police officers are, man. It's a brotherhood. It's a brotherhood from me to Texas. I feel it's like the Marine Corps. I can talk to anybody that's been in the Marine Corps, and it's just like we've known each other for 20 years.
Yeah.
And the same thing talking to you. You being a cop, you might be halfway around the world, but just watching your introduction, and then Don't Hurt Me, I think was one, and about the mental person that you were dealing with.
Fascinating.
Like I said, it is fascinating, and if other than the accent, it's the same. It's the same guy. That guy could be right here. I've dealt with them, and people who are not in the police business don't really understand what it is when it comes to someone that is mentally unstable. They don't understand what it is. Even a lot of the new cops, that haven't really gotten that experience yet. When they hear voices, before I became a police officer, when I heard somebody say they hear voices, I would think, there's a voice inside their head. But really, what it is, once I went through a bunch of, continuing with education, I'm sure you guys had to do so many hours. It's literally like, I went to this one training class where these professionals were just screaming in your ear, one on one side, one on the other, and another person was talking to you, and you were trying to talk to them. So that other person was acting like he was a police officer, and me, I guess I would be the playing the mental off my meds, and it was just screaming, and it was just incomprehensive, and it really drove home what these people go through, and and how us as police officers, if we don't know that, then we could be the trigger, the ultimate trigger that might cause them to harm themselves, or like you said, I can't say the word because this is probably going to go on YouTube, but something happens by a cop, and that's it's because we weren't trained and we didn't understand that what that illness is. And so that's what I wanted to address when you were talking about yours. I totally got what you were saying, and I was just sitting back there and just listening and thinking that I've been there.
It's an interesting mindset that we bring to the job. And I remember when I used to start work, especially if I was going to be on night shift, and I would, for about 1 hour before I left home, because for me to get to work, it was about probably a 40-minute drive through the countryside to get to the big station where I was stationed. But about 1 hour before I left home, I would psychologically just distance myself from my family. Like psychologically, there was a change coming. And that was not something that you get taught. It's just something that happens because I'm about to go, I wouldn't say to war, but I'm about to go into enemy territory.
Yeah.
12-hour shifts. And but then when I get there, what you said before about when you now watch, say, those live, real-life TV shows, and you think, how on earth did I do that? I think the same. I think, how did I do that? and not grab that bloke by the throat and throttle him. And I think, how are these policemen so disciplined? And I think, hang on, Peter, you used to be the same, mate.
Yeah.
That's interesting,
Yeah.
fascinating.
It,
Why that happens.
I think the older I watch, Wade had mentioned, these people that he's been watching on YouTube about Americans, uh, just berating the police officers who were there. It's maybe just a normal traffic stop.
Mm,
And, they don't even want to give the driver's license, and they're screaming at them. I know my rights. You didn't pull me over.
mm,
I can't, I don't know if it was the way I approached the stop, and I think I'm hitting on what you were saying. You know, when I'm a husband and I'm a dad and I'm a grandpa, I'm a different person at home.
mm,
But there's we used to call it a military bearing. There's a certain bearing that you bring when
mm,
you
mm,
when you make contact with a violator. Even let's just say a patrolman. Um, you know, maybe somebody you suspected them of driving while intoxicated, for instance, right? You bring a certain bearing to that
mm,
that first meeting, and you kind of psychologically, you're laying the groundwork for how this stop is going to
mm,
happen. If
mm,
you walk up there and you show a weakness, there's a bunch of people that will capitalize on that. And now you're going to be playing catch up.
mm,
Am I right?
oh,
And
yeah.
yeah,
You have
it,
to have a certain bearing and presence, and some people will say, "Oh, he's just being arrogant," but that's not the case. Well, sometimes it might be, but I found that because I'm reasonably tall, and I would use my height to my advantage. But if it was, I sometimes it can be a disadvantage if I want to get alongside somebody, like in a psychological sense, say a victim of crime. And I would, if I could, I would
get
deliberately
lower.
reduce that. I would step down onto the road instead and leave them up on the footpath, for example, to
Hmm.
reduce that. And because you need to try and get along with even people like a bloke that I was going to arrest. I was fractions of seconds away from killing him. I was going to drive, 40 caliber bullets into his chest. But I actually had rapport with him. I knew his name. And the only time that arrest went on for about 20 minutes, negotiation at the point of a gun.
Yeah.
And that was what you were talking in one of your podcasts about I think you called it 21 feet. Well, of course, we have the metric
Mhm.
system. We used
Yeah.
uh,
Right.
6 meters. And you got to have 6 meters between you and or 21 feet to unholster and shoot. And so I had at least 6 meters between me and this bloke. But the point I'm saying is that just building rapport with him, even that incredibly tense situation. His mother was there, for example, watching
Mm.
all this, and but building rapport. That's an incredibly good thing to do. Even if
Yeah.
you're about to kill somebody, you're actually saving their life.
Yeah, you are. And you're actually saving your life too, because you got to live whatever
Oh,
you do.
mm,
Um,
for sure.
and a quick story. I had to kick somebody out of an apartment, me and my guys. And we went up and we knocked on this guy's apartment door, and we knew he was in there because the apartment complex told us, yeah, he hasn't left, and they told us he's armed. And so we went up there, knocked on the door. He didn't answer the door. It's a metal door. And this is an apartment complex that's fairly new. So they didn't even have a way for us to call the fire department, and they could just, drill out the lock or whatever, and we can make entry that way. So the only way you're going to make entry is you're going to go up a ladder into this guy's balcony and get into the house on
Mm,
him. And we know he's armed.
mm, mm,
Yeah. So, and I'm telling you, at this time, this was probably 2 years ago. So maybe 3 years ago. So I had, 25 years of experience already.
mm,
And, so I had the apartment complex, and we located the electricity for his apartment, and I got that turned off. But the water, there was no turn off for that water without turning it off for everybody. So I
mm,
was just trying to get him to where he had, no air conditioner because it was hot Texas day, and no water, and smoke him out that way. And anyway, tell him what he had in there, but he didn't come out. And then this car drove up, and it had two Hispanic ladies in it, and they drove up right into my. It's not a crime scene yet, but it's a contained area. And I asked them, I said, "Where are y'all going?" And they were actually going to go clean this apartment. This guy, they were his house cleaners.
Mm.
So I said, "Okay, well, go up there." This is the dumbest move I ever made, man. But I said, "Yeah, go up there. If he comes to the door, y'all don't go in." And of course, they couldn't understand English like I can. I mean, we there was a barrier there, and they act like they understood me. And so they went up there and they knocked on the door and they told them who they were. And I could see from the parking lot that he's third floor. I could see that door up there, and he opens the door and they walk in and he closes the door. And I'm like, I've got two hostages now. So I run up these 3 flights of stairs, which is actually 6. You go up half and up another half. And I get up there and I knock on the door. Nobody comes to the door. I'm like, oh, good Lord. So I get on the radio and I call dispatch, and I mean, it starts raining police. You know how it is. It's the only war in town right now, so everybody's coming. And we're in another part of that building, and we're trying to discuss what's going on. And finally, the landlord, the apartment manager, gets him on the cell phone, and I said, "Let me talk to him." So I talked to him, and I said, "Hey, man, let me come up," because it was my fault. I shouldn't have let those ladies go up there. Hindsight, I didn't think far enough ahead that what if he takes them as hostage? I didn't even think that way, but he took them as hostage. So I got to get him out. So I told him, "Look, man, I'll take my gun belt off and I'll come up there unarmed. You just give me the ladies, and then I'll come up and I'll get you and I'll walk you out and you won't get hurt." Now I'm bluffing this whole time, man, because I don't know what he's going to do. He's already yeah. But I had to suck it up, man, because it was my fault. Those girls were in there to begin with, and we had so many police there that they had eyes on that door, and but I was at that point. That's the first time I was willing to trade places with somebody. This is not a movie. This is real life. And I got a family too. But it was my fault for them going up there. But anyway, he ended up coming out, and we arrested him for just holding people against their will type of thing. It was fairly light, just to get him arrested, get him detained, take him to jail. He's going to bond out the next day. It's not that big a deal, but we did that, and then he had a 9mm pistol on him, and he gave it to me, which was the weirdest thing in the world. A violator handing you a weapon. You don't know. I've seen Clint Eastwood movies where they turn it around. My mind was going crazy.
You can blame a lot on Clint Eastwood.
That's right. Yeah, that was my one of probably many dumbass moves. But did you have something like that?
It sort of reminds me of a job we had. As I'm sure you do, you had what we would call repeat offenders, repeat victims,
frequent flyers.
Yeah, frequent flyers. And one of ours was a fellow that I have to be diplomatic and say that talking about his IQ level, he probably wasn't about cancer. Let's put it like that. Anyway, we would go to his house fairly routinely, and one time we went there, and he just got engaged. To a girl, and his fiance showed us the ring. Now I'm guessing that you might have the same thing in the United States, but if you go to the shop and they got those bubble gum machines, and you used to be able to 20 cents in there and and because the ring was one of those he figured it out. This ring's going to fit her no matter what. Anyway, and she was showing me her engagement ring, and I was genuinely happy for them. Lovely. They're getting married, and anyway, might have been a few months later, we got called back there again, and then this fellow was going to do what you can't say on YouTube, and he was going to use gas from his stove, from his stove, and so we got round there. It was in the middle of the day, and there was quite a crowd of people already out the front of his unit. was a whole complex of units there. We got there, and he had blankets over the window, blankets over the door to keep the gas in. It was pretty. We went there with lights and sirens, what we call an urgent
Yeah.
duty. Anyway, we get there, and so I couldn't actually kick the door in. I tried to kick the door in, I couldn't get it open. And so I then got out my baton. We carried the extendable baton on our belt, but then in the truck we carried the big, probably about 1 meter long aluminium baton, and I got that out and smashed the window. And we had an ambulance waiting for him. The great thing I heard once I smashed the window was him inside screaming. So of course that's great. He's alive.
Yeah.
So then I smashed the window, opened up the window. I get in through the window, grab hold of him, take him out, put him into the care of the ambulance officers, and then when the adrenaline's going through your system, you don't necessarily sense everything. And because I'm thinking to myself, I can't smell the gas. I was being very switched on because one of the jackets we could wear was a Polytech jacket, and they can have static in them.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I was very, very aware of being, because I don't want to die. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I'm opening up the doors and windows, and I still think I can't smell the gas. And then I went into his kitchen, and from a distance I could see his stove door was fully open. I went up to the stove. It was electric.
He's going to kill himself. Or I guess I shouldn't have said that, but he's going to do that with electric stuff.
The only thing he was going to die from was a big electricity bill.
Man, and then you got that adrenaline dump afterwards. People don't realize though, Peter. Well, let me just give you another. This is a fast, funny story, but we're like you said, lights and sirens. You call it urgent emergency,
urgent duty. It's called
urgent duty. We call it code 3. And we're rolling code 3. Everybody knows when they hear that we're going lights and sirens, and we're just going to kill ourselves to get there. That type of thing. And I was at the northern part of the county. This is why I was still a deputy, a sheriff's deputy. I was at the northern part of the county just patrolling, and the call came in that there was a domestic disturbance at the very south end of the county. And it was probably 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. So there's not a whole lot of places between there and where we had to go. And I'm gonna guess it's probably, and I'm only talking in miles here because I don't know the metric system, but it was probably 25 miles that I was going to have to run code 3 to this place. And people don't realize this. You will realize this if you run code 3 for a long time. You get tired of hearing it. It just irritates the crap out of you. But I needed gas in order to make it to that call. I needed gas. So we had to go to, there's 4 precincts in this county, and each precinct, they handle the roads and the bridges and things like that. But that's where the big gas tanks are for emergency services, right? So you get there, you get out and you have a key and you open the gate and you go in there and you got another key to get to the gas pump and you pump your gas and you got to write down how much gas you got so they know who to charge for it. And then you go on about your business. But this particular time, it was an emergency situation because you never know. You know how it is domestic. You don't know what's going to happen. So I run code 3 or urgent emergency or whatever you said.
urgent duty.
All the way to the gas pumps, turn everything off, get out, unlock the gate, go over, unlock the gas pumps, put my gas in, write down, who it was, and all this. Get back, lock the pump back up, go outside the gate, lock the gate up, run back in the car, and turn everything back on again and go to the call. People just don't, the normal people out there that they just think that gas, they don't realize that we got to get gas like everybody else in our, our police cars. Yeah, we're not Superman, but they think we are, and
And know everything.
And know everything, we already got it figured out when we get there. That's how they think. They watch too much TV. But yeah, that's
a similar story to that has a funny ending. Was that we went to a violent domestic, and So we got to, there was again another apartment complex. We got to, and we went to the address that we call it VKG, Victor Kilo Golf,
Hmm.
in Australia, in New South Wales. And we go to the right address, knocking on the door. It was about, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Nothing. And you know how
Mm.
horrible when you hear nothing. That's really bad. So
Yep.
again, I got out the baton and I smashed the window. Oh, that's right. Some of the intel, the intelligence report for that house, for that unit, for that suspect was that he had a spear gun. Now we're 5 hours west of the Pacific Ocean. There ain't no fish out there. So anyway, I was very aware of that. Smashed the window, open up the window inside, and it's a double-story unit. Nothing downstairs. So then there's a staircase. I got to go upstairs. Oh, I tell you what, I was scared. I'm going up the
Yeah.
staircase. I got my hand on my Glock. I haven't, and I'm going up the staircase expecting this bloke could come round that bend in the staircase with a spear gun. He's got the tactical advantage of being above me.
Hmm.
Nothing. Anyway, turned out we're at the wrong address.
You broke somebody else's window.
Been given the wrong address. And so then we had to get onto the other police went to the right address. And then we had to wait outside because we had to wait for the glazier, the on-call glazier, to come and fix the window. And we're there. And there was two different locations we could have waited. So then this drunken young lady come home. She'd been out drinking all night and she come wandering up to us and she said, someone's broken into my house. And I said, I know who it is. He goes, who was it? I said, it was us.
This is the police.
We both,
Yeah, I mean, it happens. This I tell people you can't design a job this fun. You
no,
really
you
can't.
can't.
You
No,
know,
no.
it's a circus every day.
Yeah.
Different. Other than the frequent flyers, we had a lady down here at the trailer park. I don't know if y'all have trailer parks,
We call them
but it's
caravan parks here.
but they're permanent.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Caravan parks.
okay,
That's what they call them here.
okay.
Yeah.
So, and it's where this is very low income, very low. I don't want to, God help them, anybody down there, because some people are just not as fortunate as I am. So I don't want to just, I don't want people to think that I'm talking bad about these people because I'm not. Because for the grace of God, that could have been me.
Now, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, same here.
and but there was one down there that we would get a call, and when I first started out at the police department, they made me go on this call because they had already know this lady, right? But I didn't. And the call was her dog had stole her encyclopedias. That was the call. And we don't have the luxury. I don't know if y'all do, but we don't have luxury of saying, "Nah, I'm not going on that call."
We didn't have that luxury, no.
Yeah. If it was a call, no matter how dumb it sounded, we had to go.
Yeah.
And so I went, and they're all giggling. I could hear them all. Hey, they're calling Mike. Of course, they call badge numbers over the radio. They don't call your name. So I was 122, and they said, "Hey, 122, tell her, 101 said hi," or whatever it was, right? And I'm thinking, man, this just seems like a setup. A dog stealing encyclopedias. And I got there. That lady was absolutely 100% serious as they come. She swore up and down that while she was vacuuming, she had to throw that in there. While she was vacuuming, her dog ran into the other one of these bedrooms in there and stole her encyclopedias. As a new cop, I didn't even know how to write this up. I didn't even know what to do. I didn't know what my abilities were to say, this lady's, we call them 1096, which is got issues, mental issues. So I get on the phone, on the radio, and I said, and I called my sergeant at the time. And I said, "Hey, can you come here?" And I could hear him giggling on the radio. Yeah. So he came down there and he handled up on it. But over the next year, I was probably called down there 3 or 4 more times of just weird stuff about this dog and this woman, and that's why I say it's the best job in the world. It really is.
When I used to train probationary constables, I would say, mate, every day you're going to have a funny story. One of the frequent flyers we had like that. I won't say what town it was, but there was a lady there that we went round to her home one time. What's going on? Oh, she said, and she pointed to a state in the kitchen. She had a large carving knife on her table. I said, yeah, what's going on? She says, it's capable of murder. What? Another time,
You guys went to that call just for that knife?
another time we went there. What's going on? Oh, there's someone in my roof cavity playing a penny whistle. All right. But
And you got to go up there and look just to make her feel good.
Oh, we
Oh, y'all didn't?
might have pretended to have a look.
Right.
Another,
Yeah.
you might know about the dangerous snakes that Australia has, and then
Oh, yeah.
there's no exaggeration there. We have a snake, a very unimaginative name called a brown snake. Really, really dangerous snake. Very highly venomous, but as cranky as a mother-in-law. You know, just a really angry snake, very aggressive. Anyway, one night I was at one of my one-man stations way out in the bush, and I got called up in the middle of the night. And of course, that's never good. Anyway,
Yeah.
I had the phone next to my bed. Anyway, so I got this call. It was a noise complaint that I had to go and do. It was at a caravan park. So I go to this caravan park in another town, fair way away. We get to this caravan park, and there's a bunch of backpackers in this caravan park having a party. Now, fair enough, you know, they were there in the area picking fruit. So I wanted to make sure I didn't go back there because when I got there, it was in the summertime when snakes are most active. And I said to this bloke who was from Belgium, I think it might have been, and I looked at he had no shoes on. I said, mate, you want to be very careful about snakes. And I said that when you go to bed tonight and get in your sleeping bag, said, you really need to turn your sleeping bag inside out because I pointed to my boots. I had Army GP type boots on. I pointed to my boots and said, mate, you need to be wearing shoes like this when you're walking around in the bush. And so they were all really, really scared. There was English people there. They were all really scared. And I'm sure before they went to bed that night, they turned their sleeping bags inside out and probably walking around on the tippy toes. But sometimes you just just try and scare them in a sense.
Hey, Pete, thanks for having me on this show and inviting me. It was great for me, and I hope it was great for you. And let's get together and do this again sometime.
That'd be fantastic, Mike. I really appreciate your time and being able to sit here and listen to your stories, and I'd love to do it again too.